Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. Ramadan Mubarak. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Final Call cover story. Very, very important issue of the paper. Of course, I say that every week because guess what? It's true every single week. And this week we have on the cover, We Charge Genocide. This is volume number 40, number 31 on the paper. Of course, we have our editor with us today once again, Brother Naba. Why this cover story?
Well, first of all, Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan.
And Assalamu alaikum, of course, means peace be unto you. This cover, We Charge Genocide 2021, it is based in part on a significant report done by a international panel that looked at the conditions that Black people face in America relative to policing. And they looked at those conditions, the mechanisms for the administration of justice or the lack thereof, the operations of police departments, and they looked at these things through the prism of international law. And they concluded that the United States of America, which loves to promote itself as the world's greatest democracy, is guilty of human rights violations according to UN standards and international standards when it comes to what happens in the continued detainment, torture, and murder of Black people by police officers in the United States. But in truth, when you look at articles throughout the paper, all of these articles either reflect that we are living under genocidal conditions, or they talk about the actual charge of genocide labeled by this commission. So this is a very important piece that we really want people to read and understand. And you can go to finalcall.com and you can not only read the article, but you can also go look at the report for yourself. We plan on doing a series of additional reports, a series of additional articles, rather, dealing with this report, because it breaks down the genocide against Black people in America. But not only that, genocide against Black women and children in America, genocide against Black immigrants in America, genocide against Black men in America. So we will be doing some follow-up reporting and analysis, really showing and exploring from the international context what these assaults on our people mean, and calls from those outside of the United States who want change and who want the United States held accountable. It's very significant because you're looking at, again, the escalation of our struggle to a global level and a human rights level beyond the domestic politics and beyond this idea of civil rights. So we know that when it comes to operating in the international arena, the United States prides itself in the image that it offers to the world. And coming on the heels of Trump, the Biden administration is trying to reassert American power, American influence, and American dominance. So as these contradictions between what America says and what she does, and the outright destruction of Black people, brings us face to face with some very serious acknowledgments and we want everyone to pay attention. We really say that you should go and read the report by yourself. A commission of 12 legal experts from the Caribbean, Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Europe actually put together the report and came to the conclusions. And that group was organized by the International Commission of Inquiry on Systemic Racist Police Violence, which is a collective of legal groups from different countries and even different continents and different regions. So our current situation, the fact that you can turn on your television set almost any day of the week and find locally or nationally the abuse, the murder, the mistreatment of Black men, women, and children. So very important piece. And we wanted to give it the proper exposure and the proper discussion, because we cannot simply believe that appealing to white people in America will get us what we want. And we cannot simply look at our plight through the prism of American politics and American jurisprudence, which has failed us. We are part of a global community. 196,940,000 square miles of earth, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. So we should never feel that we're in this small box. And if the white man in America doesn't give us justice, we have no hope. Number one, we say with supreme confidence that the divine hand is moving against America. And America is number one on God's list to be destroyed in general for her evil, and in particular, for the destruction of the Black man and women of America and the genocidal campaign against the indigenous people of this country also.
Thank you, Brother Naba, for sharing that. It's just, man, and I can't say it enough, it's just becoming even clearer, if it wasn't clear before. The separation is indeed the best and only solution. And when we close out, I want to share the program, inshallah, that'll be going on later on today that lifts that with Student Minister Ava. But before we jump into that, I'm going to jump to page 2, which is an ugly horror movie that we keep seeing replay, which I believe directly connects to that, the cover article. So can you give us that connection?
It absolutely does. That story is related to the death of Andrew Brown Jr. in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, which we have seen. Killed by sheriff's deputies. And when you see the video of these deputies in this truck riding up to this man's home, it really reminds you of the old days when you would see white men in the South in pickup trucks just deciding that for a night of fun, they would go lynch, murder, torture a Black man, rape a Black woman, abuse a Black child. So Andrew Brown Jr.'s funeral was yesterday. He was killed by sheriff's deputies who were supposed to be signing a warrant. His funeral was yesterday, and Reverend Al Sharpton of the National Action Network delivered his eulogy. And he likened, because now there's a great debate over whether or not the family and the public will have access to video footage of this fatal encounter between police officers, sheriff's deputies and Mr. Brown. The family was shown about 20 seconds of footage with the names of officers redacted, meaning You couldn't see their faces. You couldn't see their badge numbers. And subsequently, the family and attorney Benjamin Crump and others that are part of the legal team went to court, and others went to court, news agencies, trying to get this video footage released. A judge ruled that it would be released to the family, not every piece of video footage, but select pieces of video footage. And that would be in 10 days, but it wasn't clear if that was 10 business days or 10 calendar days. And then the other additional footage, and then it would be released to the public in about 45 days. That happened around April 28th. So, to make a long story short, we're seeing once again, black man. The family says he was shot in the back of the head as he drove in his truck to try to get away from these sheriff's deputies who were supposed to be serving a warrant for some accusations of illegal activity, accusations. And once again, you have a black man who ends up dead. He was not armed. Police say the authorities in Elizabeth City, actually it was the county sheriff, not the city police, said that he came into contact with them a couple times with his vehicle, and then they started shooting. To me, it's interesting the language that they use. They don't say he rammed into police cars or into the police truck. They don't say he gunned the motor of his car toward these officers. They don't say he intentionally hit the accelerator and the car moved quickly in a manner that could have killed officers. And at the end of the day, we cannot see what is on the videotape. The elements in his case are elements that are talked about in this report, which include, as the report lays it out, collusion between prosecutors and police departments and coroners and grand juries that does not hold law enforcement officers accountable and literally allows these officers to get away with murder. So we will see what happens in the Brown case, but it is another tragic example of why we charge genocide in 2021.
Thank you, Brother Naba, for sharing that. It's very important, and as we see that, we know what's going on and how even in this is that our tax dollars pay for those who end up killing us, and we have a responsibility to ourselves and our community, and we can't say it enough, to make our communities a safe and decent place to live. And if we've seen that others won't do it, it's our responsibility to make a way for that to happen.
Yeah, the other thing is that taxpayers pay for those videos.
Right.
That videotape evidence is not supposed to be some kind of pastime.
Right.
It was supposed to help resolve and help to bring a solution to the mistreatment, torture, killing of Black people. But what we have seen over and over again, the policy, quote unquote, changes on paper. The law changes, quote unquote, in the courtroom. But the application of the law or the intent to harm Black people doesn't change. So we have now seen body cam footage and other footage from cases around the country. And the officers act like beasts as if there's no camera recording them at all. We saw it in the trial of Derek Chauvin the former Minneapolis police officer who was convicted of the murder of George Floyd. So despite video cameras, cell phone cameras being trained on him, he kneeled on this man's neck, this man who was handcuffed, who was not resisting, who was laying on the street, on the asphalt. He kneeled on this man, Officer Chauvin, kneeled on George Floyd's neck for almost 10 minutes. So if you do not change the mindset, the law or the interpretation of the law will simply change to reflect, to protect, and to defend that same mindset. And the tools that are supposed to bring you justice will only either be discarded or evidence will be destroyed, which is one of the things that also is talked about in this human rights violations report that we're talking about as well. But you will not get the outcome that you're seeking, or you will rarely get it. So despite watching Derek Chauvin kneel on a man's neck for almost 10 minutes, it was not guaranteed that he would be convicted. So it is more than just tools and training. There's a deeper problem, and we'll get to that when we talk about the editorial.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Moving on to the next article, and it just shows, just echoing the sentiment that we can't expect those who have not given us justice to start doing it now. It's been coverage over the past few, actually more than the past few months, but still dealing with our brother in the MOVE organization, Mumia Abu Jamal. Trauma of MOVE organization amplified by latest atrocity.
Yeah, well, we know that Mumia Abu Jamal is a political prisoner, former Black Panther and MOVE member. MOVE was a group, what some call a radical Black back to nature group, but essentially a group. And if you read the article, you can hear, or you can read rather, where MOVE members describe their movement for themselves. But essentially, it was a movement of Black people in Philadelphia. And essentially, they came into conflict with the police department. And in 1995, actually, in May 15th, 1985, an infamous day that we should never forget. May 13th, 1985. May 13th, 1985 is a day that we should never forget. Because on that day, the Philadelphia Police Department literally dropped a bomb on the home of the MOVE movement as they were engaged in a standoff with police officers. And they had defended themselves against police assault, and they had been beaten and attacked by police in the past. Well, on May 13th, 1985, the Philadelphia Police Department, under then Black Mayor Wilson Goode, hear me well, under a quote unquote Black mayor, a police department known for its racism and brutality in Philadelphia. That's up north. That ain't deep south. They dropped a bomb on the MOVE home, and that bomb destroyed an entire neighborhood and some 60 homes because there were fires and they pretty much raged out of control. In that Inferno, people died. 2 children, Tree Africa and Delicia Africa, died. They were ages 14 and 12. What has come to light recently is that these children's remains, their bones, were given to certain people, essentially um, to study and come back with information. But at the end of the day, they were used by scholars or anthropologists at the University of Pennsylvania and Princeton University. So this came to light about 2 weeks ago. There was a protest recently, and Move talked about these atrocities. I mean, imagine that. A bomb is dropped on a home. It kills people. It kills children. And then the bones of those children are literally studied. So there's no respect for the dead. There's no handling of the remains. At one point, there was a question about in whose possession were the remains. But read the story and you will read about the intense pain that Move members feel. And essentially what they have said, to bring this back to Mumia Abu Jamal, who is in prison right now, or hospitalized right now, while he is in prison, because of a recent operation, the Move members have said there's nothing you can do that will remedy what you have done to us. The best thing that you can do is free Mumia Abu Jamal. But it's this whole episode says something about the conditions and why we charge genocide.
Yes, sir.
One of the elements in the UN Convention and in the UN definitions of genocide involves the killing of people based on ethnicity, color, religion, and these types of factors. And basically the destruction or the removal of the children of those people. So this is another article that bears witness to what we're actually facing in this country.
Thank you, Brother Naba. And it actually ties directly to the next article. Strong marks and disappointment mark first 100 days of Biden. And I mean, it's unfortunate that we would be disappointed, or in truth, that we would be shocked. And I think that in some ways, this demonstrates that we still have hope, and that individuals that we have no reason, no record that we should have any hope in.
Yeah, so President Biden relatively recently celebrated, or not necessarily celebrated, but marked the first 100 days of his administration. So since millions of Black people voted for this man, and literally, the analysts say, saved his bid, and he himself said, Black folks saved his bid to become president and rescue democracy. But yet, we still don't see what is really needed. And in particular, we don't see it when it comes to foreign policy and international affairs. So you can read the article at finalcall.com to get more insight. And we really encourage you, brothers and sisters, to read our coverage, because there's certain analysis, certain perspectives, certain facts that we offer and bring forward that others either aren't talking about or others have not covered. So we are not just mimicking other newspapers. We are continuing in a search for truth to help to open your eyes to the reality of what we're facing in America today.
Yes, sir. Praise due to Allah. Now, we're going to skip past a few of these articles, but of course, you want to make sure that you, we have to just let you know that there's consistent coverage providing a different perspective on what's going on with the COVID, in particular the vaccines. And just can you touch on that briefly, Brother Naba?
Real quick, a summary of the COVID next vaccine coverage, which we do by Lord's grace every week. The small number of Black folks by percentage when it comes to those who have gotten these vaccinations. You need to read and find out why. So read Charlene Muhammad's article at finalcall.com and go to finalcall.com and subscribe. And of course, if you see the brothers or if you connect with the brothers in the street, get the print edition and then arrange to get the edition every week, because every week we have news that you need to hear.
Yes, sir. Praise to Allah. And of course, there's an ad right on the other side, not necessarily an ad, but a promotion.
No, it's an ad. It's definitely an ad.
Which is, don't let them vaccinate you. We won't join your efforts to destroy us. And I mean, I don't know if it's just in Illinois, but man, they have put a lot of energy towards campaigning for us to take this vaccine. Not for us to watch what we eat so that we can decrease diabetes in our neighborhoods, not that we need to exercise, none of those things, but the effort that they put into this is amazing.
And it's all around the country.
Yes, sir.
When people got to offer you a joint to take a jab, you need to ask what's up with that.
The new campaign, or you can get, if you don't do the joint, you can get some alcohol. You can get a beer for taking the vaccine.
You can get some chicken. You can even get a Krispy Kreme donut, literally.
Yeah,
but brothers and sisters,
yes, sir, exactly.
Look, never in the history of this country have you had such attempts to lure people into taking something that's supposed to be good for them. So you have to ask yourself, why is that so necessary? Shouldn't the government be able to defend its product? Shouldn't it be able to convince you? Why does it have to coerce you? Or why does it have to entice you into submitting to something that is absolutely experimental? Yeah. So go to finalcall.com, read that article. And again, you need to like and follow the Collective 9, and you need to, share this information and spread it so we can continue to grow.
Praise to Allah. Thank you. And also, and I don't have a lower third, but make sure that you check out, when you get your own edition of the paper, it'll be right there. If you got the digital edition, or if you get the physical copy, you'll have it right there. Make sure you visit noi.org/vaccine. It's important that you know that we're not just saying don't take the vaccine. That's not it. There's other things that you need to explore and make sure that you're doing so that you can protect yourself. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan isn't just sitting there and saying, don't take the vaccine and just hope and pray. There's more that we have to do. So make sure you check out noi.org/vaccine so you know why we have the position that we have and the things that you can do so that you can protect yourself and your family. Of course, as we always do, delivering a message of truth and light every week. We have coverage so you can see what the brothers are doing in the community and providing you an opportunity to see why it's important that you keep the brothers out in the street. And part of that is supporting the newspaper. We don't do it just for that, but it does help to encourage the brothers and help them to make a way for themselves, their families, and communities by supporting the paper. So make sure you see the brothers in the community. It is not, the truth can't be sold, we're taught. So it's not that they're selling the paper, but we do ask for a donation so that you can support a cause that's much bigger than the individual brother that you see or the individual brothers that you see in the community.
Yeah, and you should support the individuals, because without those individuals, there is no work. We have to understand the connection between what we do and how we help one another to literally survive. So these brothers are going out in the middle of a pandemic because they're committed to bringing light, life, and power to our community. And all of that is contained in the Final Call newspaper.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brother Nava. And just flipping through, and I know you can see the headlines, but we want to jump to important words that opened up this holy month of Ramadan. If for those who may not be familiar, we're not going to cover it in its entirety, but this is a very holy month for the Muslims around the world as we celebrate and commemorate or the revelation of the Holy Quran. And during the daylight hours, we fast. We increase our connection and relationship with Allah, the Creator, and are striving to do and be more dutiful to those principles in which we stand for and believe. Can you share with us some of the words from the Honorable?
Well, I mean, this is really just a powerful article, brothers and sisters. This week we actually are blessed to have two articles from Minister Farrakhan. One deals with the subject of Ramadan and the understanding of deep spiritual values, the potential power of Islam that needs to be unleashed for good, not just good for Muslims, but good for all of humanity. So it's a deeply spiritual message as always, and we want you to read it for yourself so that you can benefit from it. Because maybe you will read something that you can use in your life. And that is why it's important that we respect and share with one another. And we just wanted to share this information with you because we think it's actually good for you. We think it's good for us. We think it's good for you. And you have the opportunity. You have the opportunity to read and reason with what you read, unfiltered, uncut, and direct.
And in addition to that, we remove the excuses from you that if you can't, if you're busy and you may not think that you have enough time,
Farrakhan addresses the 2021
you can have the article read to you.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke April 13th.
So just another highlight for those who may not know that feature is available in the digital edition of the paper. You can do that from your cell phone while you're in motion, while you're working out. You can go through the paper and have the paper actually read to you. So take advantage of that, as well as go ahead and get the physical copy from the brothers in the community as well. Just clicking through really quickly, searching scathing human rights watch report says Israel guilty of apartheid. Brother Naba mentioned that, but you want to go into that a little bit more.
I mean, just read the article. This is another indictment of the state of Israel.
Yes, sir.
And in a little bit, we're going to talk about how human rights violations in Israel against Palestinians are connected with human rights violations against Black folks in America.
Yes, sir. So you can see the human rights violations and those who are being oppressed around the world that we share, and unfortunately similar experiences of oppression. But we're gonna go ahead and jump. As you can see, the Somalia article, UN condemns violence, warrants against escalation of fighting. I mean, it's all over the world. But I know the article you're speaking of. We're gonna go ahead and jump to the editorial. Our strongest and truest cry: we charge genocide.
Well, this is an editorial that I wrote, and I really hope that you will read it and consider it, because there's certain fundamental questions I think that are important for us to ask. So when you look at the loss of life, the loss of liberty, the loss of livelihood, the insecurity that Black people live under in this society because of over policing and oppressive policing, and those who justify these abuses, including people being maimed, people being beaten, people being terrorized, and ultimately people being killed. So a basic question is, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at a situation that simply requires more training? Or is there something else going on? And in the editorial, I essentially argue this is not a training issue. What we are seeing when it comes to the abuses and the outright killing of us by police officers who are designated, authorized, and empowered by the society to be able to take life if it's deemed necessary. But yet, when they take our lives under circumstances where the loss of life is unnecessary and even illegal, we do not see these government sanctioned shock troops being brought to justice. So what we're saying, brothers and sisters, this is not simply a matter of training. It is a matter of hatred. It is a matter of the nature of Caucasian people. They can't even get along with themselves. Have you forgotten the assault on the U.S. Capitol, January 6th? And you can read the editorial where I refer to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who taught us that for every 1,000 years of their existence on this planet, there being Caucasian people, they have slaughtered 600 million. They have slaughtered 100 million for every 1,000 years, 100 million of us. So that means in 6,000 years, they have slaughtered 600 million of us. Honorable Elijah Muhammad also taught that perhaps 1 in 1,000 whites may have some sympathy for Black people, but the other 999 will be so against any benefit coming to us that they will make that one appear as though they do not exist at all. So I raised a question in the editorial. Even if Mr. Biden, whose 1990s crime bill and other punitive legislation impacted hundreds of thousands of Black people, people that went to jail, their families, neighborhoods, money that was not put into development, but money that was put into incarceration, money that was not put into education, but was put into incarceration, money that was not put into economic development and building of communities, but rather was put into prison construction, investment that was put not into private businesses and entrepreneurship in our communities, but money that went into private prisons. He was part of that, Mr. Biden. But if he has had a change of heart, and if he is that one in that 1,000 white people that has some sympathy toward us, what can he do? Because he's president, he's not a king. And even right now, the George Floyd Policing Act, which is federal legislation, there's now negotiations underway to try to get that law passed in Congress. And there are negotiations underway right now to water down that proposed bill so that whatever law they make will be substantially weaker than what was initially proposed. So check out the editorial. Some of the points that we raised, the questions that we asked, and you will see, again by large race, that our strongest and truest cry is we charge genocide. That is the deliberate, planned, the deliberate, structured, the deliberate, programmatic destruction of an entire people. And that's what we're looking at on all levels when it comes to Black life in this country and across all lines of policy: health, education, politics, you name it, there's an effort to deprive us in every area.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Naba. And someone posed a question, and why isn't this information put into the public media?
Well, that's a great question. It is because the media, the mainstream media, is part of the structures of oppression. There is no entity in American society that is not innocent when it comes to slavery, including newspapers and media. When it comes to the destruction of Black life, including newspapers and media. Remember, back in the day, newspapers would write editorials and stories urging whites to act.
That's right. That's right.
Because of some perceived slight or announcing that there would be a lynching. Telling lies to perpetuate the destruction of Black life. That hasn't stopped today. That's why as soon as a Black person dies or is killed at the hands of a white officer, the first thing you get is every single thing that the person did that was wrong. Everything they were accused of doing. Everything they may have thought about doing. Right? So the media is complicit in this genocidal effort. And since the media is controlled by our enemy, we should only expect slavery, suffering, and death from white people.
That's right.
So what that means is we have to continue to do for ourselves.
Yes.
So what we ask you to do, if you see, and if you're looking, and if you're wondering, and if you're questioning, and if you're concerned, and if you want to help this information get out, that's wonderful. We just ask that you help us. Spread the articles from the Final Call. Purchase the Final Call. Subscribe to the Final Call. Because we need your support. Because the more you support us, the better job we can do of uncovering truth. The better job we can do of spreading the truth. The better job we can do of presenting the truth. So if you see this effort, if you're concerned, if you think that, wow, why don't people hear this, all the time? Maybe talk to your local radio station or talk to your local Black-owned media, and maybe we can collaborate with them to spread this message far and wide. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, wherever we are, Instagram. And follow us and support us, because we are dedicated not to making profits. We are dedicated to delivering a message that will bring about the resurrection of the Black man and woman of the Western Hemisphere in America and ultimately throughout the world.
Yes, sir.
So our unity, our support for one another is what we need to counteract the plots of the enemy. And when we unite and come together, they will never be able to stop us. And you will be able to feel a great sense of individual pride, knowing that you are striking a blow in the battle for the freedom of our people. So go to finalcall.com or go to digital.finalcall.com and get your subscription. Or if you see the brothers on the street, get a paper, find out, if they'll be there regularly. Maybe you want to have them delivered to your home. And then you can share information and you can help us to get information to those who need it most.
Yes, sir. And I have to say this, is this system, there's a system. And when you talk about a system helps to support itself.
Yes.
So when we look at the media, it's part of the system. And the system, you know that a system is working well when it helps to support and sustain itself. So when you see what's happening to Black people and the murder of Black people by the legal system and the justice system, then you know that anything that's helping to support that and helps to promote that and helps to sustain that, then those things are working together. So as Brother Naba mentioned, when you see us in the media, when once again someone else is lifted that has been beat down by the legal system, by the police, and then you hear all of these things that happened 5 years ago that they may or may not have done, that they were never necessarily, in some instances, never convicted of in a court. But there's all of these things, these systems help to support and sustain the reality that we're currently in. So when you look at the educational system, all of these systems are supporting one another, which justifies the need for us to separate and create another system that's going to be for the benefit of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if someone is guilty of a crime, it is the obligation of police officers to bring that person to the legal system.
Right.
Because any accused person, according to the laws of this land on paper, is innocent until proven guilty. So the police are not to act as judge, jury, and executioner, which is what they do far too often for us. Far too often. For the most minor of crimes. Here you have George Floyd accused of, let me be clear, accused of passing a fake $20 bill. Brothers and sisters, do you know how easy it is? Do you know how easy it is for someone to give you a $20 bill and you don't know? It happened to me a few years ago when I was covering the uprising in Ferguson. This brother, he was so smooth. And he asked me for change, and I gave him two tens, and he gave me a 20. Then he said, "Man, you know what? You got any more? I got this. I just need some smaller bills." Sure, brother. He gave me another 20. I think I gave him 2 5s and a 10. Got back to my hotel room, and them 2 20s was fake, as George Washington never told a lie. Absolute fake. So here you have a man accused of doing something. A 20. You should ask yourself the question: how much did it cost taxpayers to stop this man in the first place, right? How much time were people paying the taxpayers in Minneapolis for first 2 officers, right, to approach him, as opposed to writing him a ticket and issuing a summons? Well, sir, you accused of this. Okay, well, it's a minor violation. We're going to have to write this summons. Sir, if you do not come to court, a warrant will be issued for your arrest. Do you understand? Okay, sign right here. Now, sir, if you think you may have given the $20 by accident, would you like to go in and just pay the $20? And we don't even have to worry about the summons. But if you feel like this was a mistake and you didn't do it, we'll issue the summons. You can go to court. What would you like to do? See how easy that is? But that's how you treat a human being.
That's right.
That is how a human being deals with a human being. It is not how a beast deals with its prey. Do you expect a cat to be logical and sympathetic to a mouse? No. So the bestial nature of white people, Caucasian people, is being played out. And not only that, let me just remind you or let you know about this. You know that not every white person in America believe that the Chauvin trial was fair, right?
Right.
And that the outcome was fair, right? No. Millions of them feel that white officer was done wrong. They feel that he was railroaded. They feel that he was a sacrificial lamb. So if you and I see murder of a black man, and these people see an officer misused and victimized, how can we get along together in peace? Oh, and I forgot to say, you need to check out the connection between the Anti-Defamation League and your Jewish friends and them having U.S. law enforcement officers go to Israel for training and coming back and doing what they do to us.
That's
Read
right.
about that in the editorial. Don't miss that part. That's a vitally important part of what we're talking about, because what Derek Chauvin did to George Floyd, that heinous, that brutal, that insensitive, that intentional, that damnable, that devilish, demonic murder that he committed on the street. The Minneapolis Police Department said, we don't teach that training. We don't teach no techniques like that. Police departments around the country said, we don't teach techniques like that. Well, if they don't teach the techniques, who is? Where are they getting them from? Where they're breaking the bodies of black people. Remember Freddie Gray in 2014? They said he ran from police, but then we saw him on the videotape and he could not walk. Read that editorial. Read the final call. Yes. Don't miss a week.
Thank you, Brother Naba. Of course, we're not going to get through this, but it's important you check out this special perspective from Brother Jackie Muhammad, one of the members of the Nation of Islam research team. Can you give us a little background on this?
Well, this is, again, an open letter, a memo to Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, regarding some attacks that he launched in terms of what he said against Minister Farrakhan. So Brother Jackie points out how some other Republicans back in the day actually met with the minister or had the minister speak at a gathering, and there was good dialogue. So you got to read that. It's a great defense of the minister and laying out the current politics and how there's this continued scapegoating of Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Of course, the article from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which is an excerpt from Message to the Black Man, definitely important wisdom and guidance that you're not going to find anywhere else.
This article, The Bloodshedder, brothers and sisters, genocide involves the shedding of blood. In this article by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it is so important. It is reprinted from the book Message to the Black Man in America, published in 1965, but he could have written it yesterday or this morning, because it lays out what is in the nature of white people. What is the root of who they are, and how the root of who they are impacts how they relate to us and how they will never change. So read this article, The Bloodshedder. Get the book, Message to the Black Man. Read these things for yourself, and then you can come to a conclusion for yourself. But this is an incredibly important article, incredibly important, that we need to look at and understand and study.
Absolutely. And of course, last but not least, the article from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in this edition of the paper. Of course, you mentioned earlier that there's 2 this week, but the center article is America's treacherous betrayal of her ex-slaves and citizens.
You know, this is, we save the best for last, right? This is Very important article. Very important article, and I want us to really understand that the minister talks about. This is reprinted from 2015, and the minister walks us through the history of America's killing of us. He walks us through the contradictions and the lies that are told. He shows how the murder of Black people by white people is increasing not only Black pain, but Black anger. He writes about this promise of a false freedom or a treacherous freedom never given to us, and how we were betrayed by the United States government despite all of our efforts, despite all of our service, right? And it walks you through from the early days of the country all the way through to events that are related to what we're seeing today.
Yes, sir.
And so we need to look, and we need to understand, and we need to have eyes and ears, and we need to see for ourselves, and we cannot be afraid. We cannot be misled. We should not be in dismay. We should not expect change. We should understand that as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught, and as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said to us, this is the day of judgment for this country, and the day of chastisement, and the day of judgment. But brothers and sisters, we have a decision to make too. So we really plead with you to read and get this information so that you can make the decision that will preserve your life and, by Allah's grace, and promote a future for you, your children, your grandchildren, and our people.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Naba. You know, I was thinking about this, and of course, the title of this show is Behind the Final Call Cover Story. And, you know, I couldn't think of, and of course, we didn't prepare for this one, but, you know, is there a historical note that you can tell us about the final call that many people may not know about us? Can we really get a little sneak peek behind the final call? Even maybe, how did you end up? You know, of course, I know personally some of that story, but can you give us a little insight on how you ended up at the Final Call newspaper?
Well, I would say I came into the Nation of Islam in 1986. So for the last 35 years, I've been blessed to work in this mission. I had the awesome opportunity given to me by my mentor and one of the great helpers of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, a soldier, a journalist, an editor par excellence, Brother Abdul Wali Muhammad, who offered me the opportunity because I came into the Nation in Washington, D.C. So I started as a stringer, meaning I contributed articles every now and then. Then I started working part-time. And then I had the wonderful experience of being able to write my letter of resignation from my good government job. And it was a good government job if you were a Negro that want to have white women tell you what to do. But it was not for me. And that is not to disrespect anybody that does what they have to do legally to earn a living, to feed their families. There's nothing wrong with that. But I heard a word, I believed, I had an opportunity, I took that opportunity. Unfortunately, some years later, Brother Wali died under very suspect circumstances. I came to Washington, D.C. and had the honor of serving as managing editor under Brother James G. Muhammad for many years. Eventually, I left, worked in the nonprofit world in communications. Then I started my own media consulting business. Later, I was asked to come back to the final call by Brother Abdul Arif Muhammad, who was editor. I served under him. And then I guess 10, maybe 10, maybe almost 11 years ago, I was blessed with the awesome responsibility of being made editor. And so it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It has been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity and a wonderful experience.
Brother Naba?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful experience, not without change, not without pain, and not without struggle. But it has been my honor to work to try to enlighten our people, to use my skill and whatever talent Allah has blessed me with, to put it to use for the benefit of Allah, His servant, our minister, our people, our cause, because I always wanted to do something to help Black people. And when I heard Minister Farrakhan's voice on an audio cassette, so you can imagine what that is. Some of you don't even know what an audio cassette is. Just Google it and look it up. But when I heard his voice for the first time on an audio cassette, I heard him on an audio cassette on a Friday night. I went back to the Tape Connection, which was a little business in Washington, D.C., where I was at the time. I sat in that little shop for about 8 hours and watched videotape. That Saturday, I went to the mosque that Sunday, and that was it. I'm sure I showed up at my good government job in a white shirt and bow tie that Monday. So I just thank Allah for opportunity. And that's why I am committed. And the final call is committed because what we have, it has been built through the hard work of people. It is maintained through the hard work of people. It continues based on the blessings of Almighty God, Allah. And success we have is because we follow the guidance and the direction of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Thank you for Brother Naba. I'm going to close us out. Well, I'll let you see if there's any other closing words before I share the announcement of the event, inshallah, that will be going on this evening. And I'm going to end us out on a video clip that I think you may be interested in as well, that promotes Project Separation. Brother Naba, any closing words?
Well, we just want to say thank you. We want to say go to finalcall.com. And I see that some of our, one of our sisters was sharing how she is a subscriber and how she gets the paper and how she shares that information to enlighten our community. And that's beautiful. And others have really expressed their support. So, brothers and sisters, I want you to know we thank you. It is our duty and our honor to serve you. And we will continue to try to serve you and to bring you the best possible product and the highest quality of truth. Thank you.
Praise to Allah. Thank you. And with that said, I'm going to show you. Let me bring up this flyer real quick. Of course, I would encourage you. You will not be. You definitely be worth your time. The student minister Ava Muhammad will be doing a presentation this evening with the two sisters who bought 96 acres in Georgia with the 19 families. That will be this evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You don't want to miss that. You should be able to get more information about that at ministerava.com. It should be streaming on her Facebook page as well as the YouTube. So please make sure you check it out. But I would direct your attention to ministerava.com. And with that said, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. May Allah continue to bless us all. And thank you once again for supporting another episode of Behind the Final Call cover story. And don't log out yet, because we got a video that I want to show real quick that promotes the Project Separation movement. Until next time, Behind the Final Call cover story.
America is one of the greatest nations on earth. America is also a land of humble beginnings, founded by a few who decided to escape the tyranny of those who would abuse their resources. The goal was to build a land of freedom, justice, and equality. One nation under God. It is in that spirit that we invite you to the Project Separation Town Hall meeting. Here we will discuss the solution for key issues that we face in our communities. For more information, visit us at www.projectseparation.com.